So, what up, everybody? It's my birthday. It's also an early Easter Sunday that actually shows me a lot. That actually shows me that there's a sign there for a lot of you who actually know what I've been through. That's a good sign. That literally means that what I was saying before in other YouTube live was right. My time is coming. Uh, but I want to get started right away because I hate long intros, but there's gonna be quite a bit to fill in here today, mainly because there's some footage and some visuals that I want everybody to see. Again, today is Easter Sunday, which also happens to be my birthday. This does happen every once in a while, and it just happens to fall in a time when I feel like it really needed to happen. So, before we start this, I want to protect myself. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to fix my mask. I want to protect myself, and I want to protect other people around me who are kind of feeling this video in any way possible. I pretty much know, regardless of what day it is, that people are probably not watching, and we'll get into why a lot of that happens in a moment. But for any of you who are watching right now, this is probably something I'm gonna do often on my main. Because it needs to be done. We have a lot of evil in this world. We have a lot of evil people in this world, and a lot of that evil is subconscious. So, to anyone who's watching this before I really get into anything, there's going to be some content here that we discuss that might seem disturbing to you, especially if I talk about parents and parents alike. Some of this content is going to seem disturbing to you, but understand that this is strictly for educational purposes. I do podcasts, live podcasts, where things are for entertainment purposes, but right now only for this. This is educational, and a lot of parents, a lot of adults, a lot of people, a lot of kids need to see these kind of videos a lot more. I do have my other side of myself. I'm a very funny person. I have a very wisecracking, smart-assy sense of humor, but you will see these times when I'm not necessarily about that. You know what I'm saying? Like you will see times when you'll understand over time that I have a side of me that likes to joke around, and I have a side of me that understands the world and has to be serious about things when I speak on them. If I stay just being a comedian, no one's ever gonna take me seriously when I'm serious. If I stay always serious, people are gonna think I'm weird when I'm being funny, or they're gonna think that the thing that I'm trying to be funny about is for real. So I understand how society works in this type of way, and so with that being said, um, before we get started, let's go ahead and it's Easter Sunday, and I don't often do this, but like I said, I'll start probably doing this a little more often, inspirationally through a lot of my videos on either Talk 1000 podcast, which is on www.youtube.com/, talk thou, which is T/@talk thou, which is the at symbol and TALKTHOU, and that's it. So YouTube.com and all of that. Anyway, let's get started with a prayer, because I want to say keep everybody blessed. So those of you who don't, like to talk about God, or don't like to hear about things like this, I won't hold any judgment right now. I just need to say a prayer for those of you who are currently watching, who may be in the same type of position and who need a little bit of guidance in that dark hole, to how you can climb out into the light. So let's get started. Let's say the prayer. Hopefully you can hear me. Dear Heavenly Father, I come before you today, lifting up those who feel isolated, forgotten, or completely alone. You understand the pain of having no special friend or support system to share life's joys and sorrows. I ask for your divine support to surround them, reminding them that you are the best friend who sticks closer to a brother. And until those friends arrive, I pray they feel your presence immediately, knowing that you are the constant companion who never abandons. Heal their broken hearts, mend what is broken, and turn their sorrow into joy. In the mighty name of Jesus, Yeshua, amen. Let's get started. Now, again, as I've said before, today is my birthday. And I'll tell you this, because a lot of people who are probably going to be watching this in the future, even if they're not watching it now, may think this is funny. So if you are around someone who's watching this and they're laughing at things I say in this moment, I need you yourself, who may be a moral person, and I'm talking moral, spiritually inclined people, to hold that in and remember that for your own personal accord. Because people who laugh at other people's pain or misfortunes, no matter what their beliefs are about that person, because they'll never actually know, it's impossible to understand good people in a way that's accurate if you're always smearing them. I just need you to not take that seriously, but take it seriously in a sense of holding that for your own future reference on a day that you may start to want to prove that you might be a better person than a lot of the average people running around in society who may be just sleeping or quote unquote woke. So let's get started, because a lot of people have been very curious about me, people I don't even know. And so we're going to get down. We're going to let this breathe. It's my birthday again. And today I want to tell y'all something, first of all, because you have to understand the meaning of what strength really is. Okay? Today's my birthday. You usually see a lot of people who have birthdays on Facebook, and their profile page that day will be filled up with people wishing them happy birthday. That hasn't happened for me in about 4 years. If I get a happy birthday, it's from like one person, and definitely, my family, my mother. I don't get happy birthdays. And basically, like, nobody gives a crap that I live or die. Even the friends in my circle have been online today. Everyone gets alerts. Let's say Facebook. Everyone gets alerts that it's your birthday that day. So they know. But they don't say a word. 9 o'clock a.m. goes by, 10 o'clock a.m., 11, 12, 13, and 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock goes by. You see these people online. They've been online in and out all day. They've gotten the alert. Everyone gets the alert when it's someone's birthday. I don't get those anymore like I used to. And I'm going to explain why, because it's going to definitely tie in to some things I'm about to show you here online, and what actually happens to people who, in this day and age, in this generation, subconsciously, a lot of this happens subconsciously because it's not only traditional, it's in the bloodline of people. But I'm going to show you what happens when you are truthful. I'm going to show you what happens when you are honest to people, towards people who don't fully understand that what you say or what you do is of a greater good. All right? And it's very deep, and it's going to be a little bit of a lot today, because it's very important. It's a thing that's spreading. And there's reasons why it's spreading that we'll get into on other live feeds or other podcasts. But for right now, we have to talk about some of the lower basic stages of a new thing that's happening when it comes to any form of terrorism. And this specific form of terrorism is psychological. This is what many, including Malcolm X himself, called psychological warfare. You understand? And it's not just happening in the Western world. Yeah, it's happening worldwide. But here's the kicker. It's also happening to a lot of people who are spiritually righteous and try to choose the most right standings with the Lord and Savior. And this is why, at least from my belief and my experiences as a spiritually inclined human being, this is why people all over the world who are spiritually inclined are being targeted. All the righteous, the true righteous, the ones who aren't afraid to stand butt naked in front of the world and say, hey, this is who I am. Accept me or leave. The ones who will tell the truth even if it embarrasses them or embarrasses other people. All the spiritually inclined, truthful ones. The holy ones. And what you have to understand is what the word holy means is different, separate. Holy means separate. People who are separate from the rest of the materialistic 9-to-5 world. You know, people who are separate from the societal status quo. People who are considered sometimes extremists. And we call these people certain things subconsciously for certain reasons. Those which we will get into in other videos in the near future. Because today is the day that I finalize my stand in giving anyone that I can who listens, and hopefully and eventually the world, more absolute truths, especially those who are going through what I'm going through when the rest of the people around them have no idea what that world is like. Because your world is designed to be in a way that people on the outside looking in who surround you in your daily life would never be able to comprehend. There are things happening around you that are staged that they call street theater that people who would normally be around you that day or ever aren't supposed to see. So if you talk about it to them, it will discredit you. And I am one of the people who have experienced that, henceforth why I get no birthday shout outs anymore or any love that I used to get long before the things that happened. Now that we've talked about that, we're going to tell the story of what happened. I've been gang stalked, as they call it, or community harassed for several years. It actually started in 2004, 2005. It got worse and worse come 3-4 years ago. And basically, for those of you who know I'm a rap artist, this whole thing really started the day that I picked up a mic and put music out on the internet. Back in the MySpace era. Back when people were into blogs and reading them. That's right. People used to actually read blogs that were paragraphs long in early 2000s. This was just early 2000s. It's not like we're in the year 3030 something or, even 3030 period or 3001. We're talking about just a little over 20 years ago or a little less. I'm not calculating right now because I need to tell a story. But again, times have changed even then. And there were some situations that happened in my life. People started leaving, friends were moving. There was a lot of things happening. But to try to make this story as short as possible, because it's a very long story, there was a time in my life when I started running into what I now diagnose as phony fans. I know that's like a whole thing, but there's a specific type of phony fan that even I can't call by any diagnosis. I just know them as phony fans. And his name was Jake. This had to be about 4 years ago. And he used to hang around me. I used to go to Starbucks. He'd hang around there. Just any place he knew I was around, he'd try to hang around. He also noticed that a lot of the youth that hung around that area respected me a lot. They really, really, really respected me because they liked my art as a rap artist. And I did many other things with different talents because I'm what they call a multi-talent. And there were things that I saw about him that were disturbing. Long story really short, on this level, he saw my ability to be able to reach and teach these kids in the area as a way for him to associate with me so that he could get to them. And this was literally, and this was literally one of the first times I'd realized like that there are people out here that really do things like this. Now, I had seen a lot of suspicious shit in the past, and I had to do my best to ignore it because if you realize it as some kind of reality, chances are your brain is going to be completely scarred and you ain't going to be able to sleep at night. That we'll get into another time in another video as well because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to this thing. But anyway, back into the story. I had to one day, I stopped hiding because I started pretending and hanging out with him to watch his actions when these kids would come around. They would ask me questions. Some of them respected me so much, they would ask for like these early autographs, right? Where it's like they know you're going to be famous because you're so good at something. So they want your autograph because they want to be one of the first people to claim they knew you before anybody else. Here's the proof. Can we take a picture? Can we do this? You know, And I always, you can take a picture. They always would have questions for me. I would always answer them. And when you have that level of power with specifically the youth, I mean, if you're a good person or a righteous person, you want to make sure you're teaching them right. While you're in that moment and they're asking you a question, they're talking to you, you want to make sure you lay some real knowledge. Because if you grew up a zennial like me, where you grew up you're an 80s, late 80s baby, early 90s teen, mid 90s teen, late 90s teen, if you became an adult strictly in the 2000s in the millennial era, they call you a zennial because you're between Gen X and millennials. So you're a zennial. So when you're a zennial, you're kind of in between what the morals were that were lifting people. Because if you don't know the 90s, you don't understand the differences of then and now that are not for the better. They are not for the better. I can tell you straight up, no matter what was going on in the Oval Office at all, life was so much more peaceful and more affordable in the 90s. In the 90s, you could rent a small apartment off of one job at the convenience store. You need 2 jobs and a roommate to do that now, or at least a roommate. So, and you can read about that. You can do your studies. It's all about knowledge. But this is what it was in that time. And for some reason, we get a lot of people saying, well, now it's a different story. Now it's this and now it's that. But it's like that doesn't excuse it. But we have to understand when we go, well, that was then, this is now. It's like, yeah, that was then and this is now. But some of these things are not morally right. And just because that's then and this is now doesn't mean that it's right. It's accurate. That it's morally conscious in any way, shape, or form. And I believe that until we start understanding that, the generations will fall for the worse. But when you were a millennial, you had this in-between understanding that kind of makes you a special era that a lot of people fail to recognize. But it's an era that is that has traits that most people from Gen X and Gen all the way to Gen Z, outside of the Zennials, they didn't have what you had if you were a Zennial. You see? And this guy was jealous because I had this relation between the OG status of life and the youth, because I was still, like when I came into rap, I was in my early 20s. I was like 21. And because I lived in a certain type of environment, the parts of me that were still young never left, but at the same time they just matured. So when you were like, basically, for example, if you were the type of kid that watched superhero cartoons or anime or whatever, and you ran around the house zipping in a towel with like you were Superman and you wore the towel and flew around your back or whatever, that was the side of you that wanted to be a hero. But for some of you, you get so caught up in that 9-to-5 world, that work job, got to take care of the wife and kids, that you lose that. But there are people, much like myself, who we didn't get the kids, maybe, or maybe we didn't have, or maybe we're just strong enough to keep who we are and then keep the other side of our lives. And that superhero inside of us didn't stop. It just matured to understand that there are certain realities. I can't fly, but maybe if something happens in our country, I can go to war and save it. Those type of moments in our lives as we grow up, where it's like the superhero inside of you doesn't die unless you let it. But instead it can mature and understand its own realities of what it can do to be the hero that it feels in its heart it's supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? So, but here's the problem here. Here's where we're really going to get into it. Got a lot of people in this world, in this society, in not just in the Western world, as I said again, who don't agree with that. And they don't agree with that so much to the point that they're afraid of your voice and what you spill onto the people. And it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, they just disagree with it. So when me and this guy had this simple disagreement of, hey, I don't like the way you act around these kids, because let me remind you, he was giving these kids money. Like, he would throw around $5 bills, $10 bills to these kids by the Starbucks I used to go to. He'd hang around a Starbucks, wait for these kids to come around. They'd be around like anywhere from 12 to 15. And he'd throw them $10 bills and stuff. Like it was some kind of campaign that he was running. Not only that, he was buying them liquor. This is something I didn't find out until way later, after he died. And he died from suicide. And when we talk about karma, we definitely going to get into that. Because this is where you have to start understanding that just because somebody says something doesn't mean shit about somebody. The truth is they could be slandering that person. And then at that point, you have to separate the difference between the life of that person and the person that they're slandering. Because sometimes it's the karma that speaks for itself, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. Jake was giving these kids liquor, and he was giving them money, and specifically the young girls. And I started to witness this after a while. And this was started to be around after the time I started secretly confronting him about it, like, yo, I don't like the way you doing all of this. And some people who are innocent. Let me tell you something. First of all, I should have got a degree in psychology because maybe it's just too much experience dealing with people when you're living on the streets and you were homeless for as many years as I was. You learn things about people because all you deal with is people in the streets every single waking moment of your life. So your understanding of the psychology of people develops from living on the streets. If you're sane enough to handle living on the streets, if you can keep your mind focused, you can stop panicking about being out in the streets all the time and being surrounded by so many people in public all the time, and start using it to understand people, so that maybe if you understand people well enough, you can work your way out of that situation. But you have to understand how people work. So there are, and again, now you're seeing how I became a survivor, understanding how people work when you don't understand them, when you can understand them, because people are complex. They don't always behave like you want them to, but so that you can get out of the hole that you may be in. And with that being said, I understood what Jake was doing, trying to come into my life and make himself look popular through my popularity with these kids. While I was out there trying to tell him, like, be careful of people like him and do this and do that. And, I was teaching them things that we learned in the 90s, because there was a lot of, at that time that they were coming to me and asking questions, there was a lot of backwards learning going on. Because nowadays they try to teach you that Satan is a good person, that Satan was good and that God is bad. And that's the stuff I saw coming a long time ago. There's slow little things that were happening in our society, in our world, that other people were sleeping on, that I saw that kind of shit was going to come. And I was out there trying to, like, okay, while the youth are into my music and they hear what I'm saying and they feel it, I need to let them understand that what you hear on that mic is who I am, and this is what has to happen out here if we're going to keep ourselves advancing like we did in the 90s, and keep that 90s thing advancing all the way into the 2000s and advancing beyond that. And that's all I was really trying to do. It's like Tupac said in that one song, like, all I was, remember me, are you still down? He said, all I ever did was try to reach the kids with the real. That's really all I was doing, was like, they're going to teach you this on the TV. Teachers are not going to teach you that on the TV. But while you're here right now, this is what I'm going to teach you. And you can go do any Google study you want. It's going to show up there, and it's going to show up anywhere else that it's going to show up on YouTube when you see an official talk about it. That's what I was doing, because that's what they weren't doing. They weren't looking and doing their studies. I noticed that kids weren't doing their studies on what the realities of the generations are and how they were supposed to be. They were just letting things happen in life and rolling with it, letting whatever was on TV and then just rolling with it. And I saw how the generations were changing for the worse. And I did not want to live in this kind of generation. Where we're at was what I saw back when I was talking to these kids and talking to these people in town, and they respected me and my music. But this guy, Jake, he saw that and he couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand it. And he didn't like the fact that I was calling him out. Even the police. You go to the police station this day in LaGrange, Illinois. You can go to the police station this day and ask them about Jake. If I could get his last name. One of these days, if I ever bring him up again on a YouTube channel, there are people right now watching this, or people later on when they have time watching this, who are going to go, I remember Jake. I don't remember his last name because he has such a weird-ass last name. I don't know what country his family came from. I don't know what his heritage is, but it was a very strange last name. You wouldn't remember it. He died. So, but here's the thing. He didn't like the fact that I caught on to him. He didn't like that more kids were starting to be exposed to what he was trying to do. Even the cops told him, like, it's really funny that you're giving these kids money everywhere you go in public and trying to act innocent. They even told him. They told me, they were like, yeah, we've talked to him about it quite a few times. And this is one of the first people that I really, out of many after that I was really after and trying to capture. So eventually I just tolerated him. Wasn't really friends with him anymore, but tolerated him because he lived above this Starbucks that I used to go to. And I tolerated him and I spied on him. So I was around, he was around, and I had to observe him because this dude's in town. He's got all these children convinced. And I'm concerned because if I was a parent and I lived in LaGrange, I don't even have the understanding of the dread that this is going on with my child. She's talking to this guy. My daughter is talking to this guy and getting liquor off of him. And then I bust him and I don't ever know where the liquor's coming from. There's more going there. You're getting these kids drunk. Who knows what he's already done? I've seen instances. What really fed me up is I'd seen instances. There was one specific instances. There was a group of girls. I'm not going to say their names because I know at least 3 of them. They were fans at one point until I started exposing things because they didn't like what I was doing. There was 3 of them coming out of his apartment, waving bye to him, smiling. And they got on their bikes and they dipped. They were around like 15, 14, 15 to his 23. And no, it wasn't even 23. I think the cops told me he was almost 30 something. I couldn't tell because he looked so goddamn young. Kind of like me, but I'm in my 40s now. I got gray hair and shit, but I still look young in the face. But for him being in his early 30s, and me being older, it's hard, a little harder. It gets a little harder to tell as you get older. You just figure they're very young. So, anyways, so there were instances like that where I was just like, okay, I've seen enough. I've seen too much of this shit. I got to keep an eye on this guy. And he didn't like it. At this point, he knew what I was up to. I knew what he was up to. And at this point, I had known in my mind, because I understand how these degenerate humans work. I understand how humans work. I said, I cannot leave this town. No matter where I go, I have to keep coming back to this town as long as he comes around. Because he kept coming around he kept coming around town in the 3 o'clock hour when he knew the kids would be out of school and coming into that goddamn Starbucks. I've been coming into that Starbucks for years and years and years and years, since 2004. Anybody that goes there, they knew who I was by name. They knew me by rap name. They would put it on my cup. There were times they'd put it on my damn cup. They put Shadow. Back when I was Shadow. I'm JX Phantom now. They would put Shadow on my cup with the X and everything. So it wasn't, for anybody, and I'm leading into something huge with this. Long story shorter now, because it's just too much. It's a lot to deal with, because I know that this subject was going to raise a lot of questions with people. So there has to be a little more detail than just really making the story super short. But this guy, at one point, I got hired by a friend of mine who started running his own business. And I had a choice between keeping an eye on him to make sure he doesn't try to spread any rumors about me and try to counter the situation, so that, because I know how people think. I lived in the streets for years and years and years, and there are no doubts that you can put past anybody. So in my mind, if I leave town and I disappear, he's going to start telling people I'm the pedophile. That was what I'm thinking. Because that's the only way he'd be able to stop my reign of terror on him, by exposing him to so many people as I did in the background while he wasn't looking. And I would tell people like, yo, look, pay attention to how he looks at this person. Pay attention to how and people started seeing it. But then I got hired by this person for a lot of money. I mean, for, 3 days of work, I was making a lot of money. But I had to go state to state and be busy all the time for days, week, whatever. Sometimes it would just be 3-day period, but it was just enough for this person to start spreading those rumors. Now, everybody around me was telling me, yo, ignore it. It'll pass. Be the bigger person. If you start talking about it, then you're guilty. And so I ignored it. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go over here, do my thing, make this money so I can build my label, Blood Moon label, with this money. I was stacking up my crumbs because I was co-CEO of this taco and drink thing that everybody knew I was a part of. But each time I came back from one of these trips, people in the community started treating me worse and worse and worse. And so, without anybody saying it, because what I get a lot of times is silence from people. And I'll say this too: when you get silence from people, when everybody around, it's not just getting it from people, because that suggests you get words from other people. But when you get silence from absolutely everyone around you, question that, because that really, silence speaks a lot of volumes. But when people start treating you a certain way that they didn't treat you before, and no one's telling you what's wrong, really keep that in mind. Because that's what happened to me, and it caused a lot of consequences, because this is how I learned how to be a fighter. There are certain things that when you back down, it can cause a situation to get worse, especially when it comes to rumors, lies. Because this guy Jake was running around telling people that I was the predator. But he was doing it, he wouldn't do it when I was around. He only did it when I took the job and left. And I started going on these trips, going to Florida, going to Ohio, going all over the states, making all his money. Because my thing was, fuck this guy, he can't do shit. Everybody's right. I should just stop listening to a broke motherfucker who's out here pretending like he's making money when he's just taking a little bit of the money that he made from painting. Because I was one of the few people that used to come and watch him come home from work with all his paint clothes on, with all the paint all over it. Most people didn't see it, but I was always out there because that was my town. Everybody loved me, and it just felt good to be there at that time. But he was giving a lot of this money to these kids because he had such an agenda to bang one of these kids. Because he knew that those little kids, those little girls were about money. Okay? And I knew that too. And those kids, they respected me, but money was the last thing that they'd ever try to scam out of me or finesse me on. No matter what the reward would have been. Who knows what Jake got away with before he offed himself? Who knows? Long story even shorter. Every time I came back from another trip, things got worse in LaGrange, in this community. And I didn't know why. I was like, I'm doing what I feel like God wants me to do. I'm doing what they said. I'm ignoring it. What could possibly be wrong? But over time, I'd learned that there were rumors going on. And of course, I go, okay, see, that's exactly what happened. Well, see, Jake was spreading the rumors. I found out through a group chat in Snapchat. And I want to say this too about Snapchat, bro. There was a time, and I've had this account for many years. There was a time when Snapchat was just about just being a new form of social media. My friends, the dude that I work with has a Snapchat. Everybody had Snapchat. Everybody just had it. And somehow over time it became a thing for kids. I don't know why. I don't know how. There's a lot of questionable things about Snapchat. The fact that it has no privacy rules. It has no safety when it comes to children. You don't know what your kids are looking at, who they're talking to in any way, shape, or form. Nobody's protecting it. It's very disturbing. But I started finding out what was going on in the group chats because the people who were spreading the rumors happened to be kids. And a lot of the same kids who were respecting me on the streets all that time. And messaging me and saying, hey, you're the shit. I love your music. I didn't have a clue what happened for a lot. I said, all of a sudden, people are clowning me. These kids are clowning me. My fans are clowning me. Everybody's just clowning me. I didn't understand. And then one day, I got put in this group chat because in Snapchat, they just force you into a group unless you get out. Well, at the time, in the first group chat I got invited in, I didn't know that. Because those were parts of Snapchat that by the time I got back into Snapchat after so many years ago, not being on it, I didn't have a clue what changed. All right. So this group chat was just talking shit to me. Well, first they were praising me, and then they went from that to like talking shit. They turned the group chat to the "you're not that guy." There's just all kinds of shit. Then they started saying like I raped some girl. I actually have screenshots on saved in my cloud data to this day of it. For no one that believes me, there are screenshots. I had to save all of this shit because I knew one day there was going to be situations like this, or I'd have to take something to court, or something really drastic would have happened. And if anything happened to me because somebody believed it, somebody was going to find this shit in my cloud data when they were trying to find any forms of CP or anything stupid. They were going to find this footage in my cloud, because whether or not you delete stuff that's in the cloud, it stays in the satellites. And that's what people don't understand. They don't do their studies. So I knew no matter what, I was going to win, and that this whole thing that happened to me was based on this one guy whom I busted, and all of these kids who carried that torch because they weren't getting their $5 or $10, or they weren't getting their liquor, and in turn getting whatever they were getting from him. Or whatever the case, they had to be careful. They had to rethink their steps and whatever they were sneaking around doing with this guy. I caused that. It was one of the first damaging situations I'd caused. I didn't think it would get to the point where the guy would off himself. Who knows what happened? I think Epstein case, when I say, okay, if Epstein and other people around Epstein had to off themselves before something got exposed, I really, really wonder what his case was, because he was really trying to get at these kids, and he was getting them drunk. So who knows what he could have got away with, giving them all them white claws in Mike's hearts. So, you just got to be smart. And even though at some point he died, those kids carried that torch, and they spread this rumor about me being a molester to kids all the way through LaGrange to Western Springs. It started reaching people in different provinces, different states, because this is how the internet works. They're contacting friends, family members they moved away and they're in another state. And this stuff really started spreading to the point that every time I went into a different community, there'd be amounts of people staring at me in cars, following me around with the same license plates, mind you, because I'm smart. Okay, smart people understand this and will confirm it because they're rational. And when a situation that seems like it would make the average person makes you want to panic, you study it instead. When you're smart, you study it. You see what I'm saying? And so I had to study all of this, and I realized very quickly something more is happening than just people being jealous because I rap and I get respect at this point. Somebody did something, because I had grown people following me around with the same license plates. These I don't know what you call them, minivans or vans of a certain type, like big ones, actually, not even mini, but big ones. And actually doing enough studies and going on YouTube and other YouTube videos with people who are suffering the same situation, the very big possibility is that these people were at one point former CIA agents. There could be a big possibility that, some hating ass little brat who was jealous went and got mommy and daddy to pay for some investigation. Oh, I heard this guy did this. Everybody in my school is saying he did that, or whatever the case may be. So they probably got mommy and daddy lawyer in that little rich ass town to fucking pay for a private investigator, and whatever was going on in the background. A lot of these kids were making sure to spread these rumors about me, and I couldn't understand why until one day I got put in a group chat where the kids were saying, well, if he ever makes it, because I was going hard on him. At this point, I was going hard on him because I'm like, dude, I'm losing friends, I'm losing people. I don't know what you're saying, I don't know what you're putting out there. But at this point, I was just not tolerating it. I don't care what age you are, I'm a grown man. You're out here in the background when I don't know about it, ruining my friendships, my pathways. I don't even know about it until people start running their big mouths on group chats and Snapchat. All this time I was trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, you're over here running your mouth and you're ruining my life. Don't think anybody especially grown and who has worked hard to earn what they're losing, is going to sit around and tolerate it. I don't care who you think I am. When they started getting all sensitive and they started, well, we're going to save these messages so that if he ever tries to take us to court or if he ever becomes famous, we'll just put out these messages and say he was being aggressive towards us and we're just kids. Well, first of all, it can be literally proven that every kid that added me on Snapchat who said they were a fan added me. It can be proven on Facebook or anywhere else that any kid who ever followed me from LaGrange or Western Springs or anywhere else on social media fucking followed me. I don't give a fuck who you are. Kiss my black ass, okay? If you are following me and you don't message me and say like anything, I assume you like my talents because I have many talents, but my main thing that I love to do is music and film. So you had to have heard of some of this if you're following me. The problem with social media today is people will follow you and don't say a goddamn word. You see? And so people will follow me and I accept. Some people will message me and they'll ask questions. I accept. I'll talk. I don't want any of my potential fans thinking I'm a dickwad or an asshole. I haven't made it to the status where I have a right to diss my fans or potential ones and not communicate with them like a fucking human being I am, and they are. I am not a fucking Jay-Z. I am not a fucking Twista. I am not a fucking Lil Wayne. What right, in my mind, this is what I'm thinking, what right do I have to pretend like I don't have a right to message you people? Because when I never messaged them, they would just delete me. And I'm like, dude, that's fucked, because now that means I could have lost a potential fan, which also means losing potential customers when an album comes out or when a film comes out. This means you're losing money. When you think about it on a business level, it makes more sense, does it not? Who listens to this rap shit the most? These kids. And now we're going to get into that in a later fucking thing, because now we got the Diddy case, we got all this shit going on. So now we're starting to realize some motives on how people who are popular or famous or grow popular famous lure kids and what they lure kids with. We're going to get into that one another time. Oh, we're blowing out of the water out of shit, man, because the shit adds up. Once a lot of you remember the stories I start telling and say, remember when this happened in the news, remember that happened, it's gonna make sense how a lot of shit actually connects. All right, I can't drink this yet because I want to keep this on. I think it's cool, so I'm just gonna take the sacrifice of not fucking drinking the beer. Anyways, so this guy sparked a whole thing. This one person, and he was actually kind of racist, not because he was a super Trump supporter, but we'll get in. I don't know. Maybe I won't get into it, but just trust my word. This guy hated me for the fact that I was living in a white community like him, but I had the most influence at the time before he started spreading these rumors onto other people. Eventually, I found out he killed himself because the police, towards the law, they said something to or about his mother, something along the lines of, "You should have raised him better," and this made Jake snap, and he tried to pull the officer out of the car through the window. Huge mistake, and they were about to put him. They were about to put him away, man. They didn't like him anyway. They already thought he was suspicious for all the money he was giving these kids, but they didn't like him anyway. So before he could get to the case that was going to put him away, mind you, he ran around spreading rumors also that I was going to jail, that I was this horrible person. And he told people, he's like, bet, like, this dude's going to jail. I found this out from a lot of different people later on. And in this particular case, in this current moment that he was in, he was the one going to jail. He was the one that was about to get exposed because he had bad behaviors going on in the background that none of those kids knew about. And they were going to find out when that shit hits that local newspaper, because that local newspaper puts everything in it. I've been in there a couple times, or a few times. And so before that embarrassment could hit him, before people could realize this guy was wrong, I was right, everything was true, he offed himself. He couldn't bear that humility at all. And me and one of his roommates know it because the roommate was the one that finally had told me everything. That he had passed, he died because of all of this. And we both connected it. We both know. And the landlord, even the landlord of the building that he lived in above the Starbucks, knew that he was a horrible person. But those kids and some of the parents and a lot of the adults, the workers at Starbucks knew it, but they let it pass because he would always come in, fix their chairs up, go outside where they had all their chairs and stuff. He'd try to stack them up and put them away like he was working there, like just to get on their good side. Who goes out of their way? I mean, anybody who goes that far out of their way to try to be Mr. Upstanding Citizen is already up to something. Anybody like me who's been on the streets for 40 years of his life has seen and know that. That's going to be, that's like learning it in school. You see somebody get electrically shocked 1 billion times on the street, you learn not to stick your finger in a fucking socket. Am I correct? It's common sense. When he offed himself, I started to very quickly realize the onslaught of people talking down on me and talking shit and posing as Jake in puppet accounts. They're just carrying a torch. This has no longer become about like him being right or accurate about anything. Now you're doing this for fun. And again, there was a lot of people saying, ignore it, ignore it, ignore it. But when it gets to the point that they've gone and paid money to have like your parents' housing address put up on a strange group chat that everybody's seeing, and you don't know who's behind a Snapchat group chat, by the way. It could be a grown adult playing a kid. And if one of these grown adults playing a kid actually believes the rumor that you might be this molester or predator, yeah, there's a problem. Because this is what they did. They put my parents' house up. I live here. They live way out somewhere else. You know, and this made me feel so threatened that I bought. This is why I have all the guns that I have now. My mom knows about it. That's why I have all the guns I have now, because I was like, I had to start going out. I was like, I don't care if you're kids. I don't care if you're adults. I don't care. This is my family you're involving in something that doesn't even actually exist. And my life could even be at stake at this point, because there are a lot of people out there, even if it's not true, that will believe it because they don't know me. And this rumor is spreading to too many people in too many different provinces, in too many different states. I'm being followed by people I don't know. And now you're putting my parents' address up. Somebody's going to have to get shot for my own protection on my family at this point. I have to think ahead for my and my family's safety. So when I announced that all over social media, I had a bunch of kids coming around saying, we're going to report you because you're making threats. They were trying their hardest to make my character look so horrible. And the thing that they were doing the most was they would screenshot sections of things that I would say or respond with, or videos that I would post. They would screenshot only sections of it, but not the full story. And they would post it to whoever was on their accounts. I only have a few on my accounts, but they have tons. So they knew that shit was going to spread long before my truth was spread. If I got only 50 people on my account and they got over 1,000, the truth is going to get out like a snail and the lie is going to get out like a speeding ass cheetah. That's logic and science all put together. And that's what happened. That is the truth. You understand? It just spread to so many people. By the time I could gain a little control over it, it spread too far. If I went online right now and the entire Snapchat or Facebook or Twitter believed my truth, it would still be all these people that were around all these other people who were around all these other people who heard about it that I can't get to. So that rumor will stay. And that's one thing. But when you're an artist with multi-talents like me, and everything everyone does to create a business or make money or even a job application is online now, and you have to promote to the public, and your shit gets reduced from like 50, 60 likes to like lucky enough to get 5, when your Spotify goes from 200 to like 20, there is a problem, because this now it's your life. Now it's the thing that was supposed to develop you a business to protect and feed your family that is at stake. Now it's serious. People, the things I went through was not a game, and it is not a game to this day. So as I said in the earlier production of this, today is my birthday, and for the last 5 years since the rumors, I haven't gotten a single birthday the way that I used to. All because one single person, one single Trump supporter, racist guy, was able to somehow just say a couple of words, and thousands of people all over the freaking country believed it. And this is why I don't support lies. All right, I don't support liars, because everything's not a little white lie. It's not like these people were gonna say, it's not like this person or these people planned on saying, hey, you know, he shot somebody, or he's a gangbanger from the hood, or anything common. They had to sit together and think of the worst thing to say about somebody. You know, somebody says you're a gangbanger, it's no big deal. Somebody says you're a pedophile in their community, everybody's going to jump up and be like, where the fuck is he at? They knew that. And the idiots that believed it didn't understand that, yeah, that didn't happen. This is why we have a court system. This is why there's a due process. Because that's the kind of tactic that these sneaky rats use. But these are not just tactics that are happening because of who you are or what you believe in. These are tactics that are happening to a lot of people. And there are certain reasons why they happen to people. The proper term for it is community stalking or gang stalking. I apologize for making this a long story, but there are a lot of details and factors that still haven't even been talked about. So if you're still confused, you now understand why that story had to be as long as it even was, because there's still more that hasn't been talked about that would probably make a lot of stuff make more sense. But I want to jump into this thing because what I've been going through in that community ever since is very hard to see when you're not a part of it. There are certain people in my circle who witnessed it, and those people are no longer in my circle. And it's not because they thought I was a liar at some point in time. It's because they created some kind of scenario that would get them out of being around me, because they witnessed that in their own communities, being around me and associated with me was getting them negative attention. And this is how community stalking, community mobbing, or whatever you want to call it, community harassment, I call it more so community mobbing, community conspiracy. This is how it works, and this is why it's so effective. If you can gather up a bunch of people against one person who is actually a good person, who is respectful enough, just because you may not like who he is, his skin color, or whatever the case, if you can get enough people to disagree with him and agree with you, you can get everyone around them to do the same. You can get everyone around them to turn on them. You can get every friend to turn on them. Okay? But if you don't understand psychology, if you don't understand psychology, first of all, you don't understand why these manipulative mental factors actually are effective in whole ass communities of people with what they call lower vibrations. Lower vibrational people will swallow anything just because either this person who has credibility said it, or because this multiple groups of people said it, or both, or a little from column A and B. But they don't think outside of that box. For instance, yes, that's a true situation. That person might have credibility. He might have never steered you wrong on anything. But don't think for a second that there will never be a point in people, because this is how power is created in politics. Don't think for a second there won't be a point in time where they won't realize that because they've never lied to you, they can at least one or two times put out a lie that you'll believe. Because that is in human nature to do when a man achieves a certain level of vocal power. Vocal power of such kind leads to mental power. And if you are not mentally strong enough to decipher what the truth and the lie is, you will swallow anything. Jake understood this because his main goal in life was to be a politician. And when you think about that aspect of it, what do politicians often like to do when they're desperate for the attention and the vote? They spread money around to people. They try to buy the vote, right? When he was spreading money to all the little kids and shit. And I started to think about that, and I said, now, wait a minute. This wasn't just a matter of him trying to overpower the love that people had for me. It's exactly what I thought it was. He made the assumption of, just because he would tell the little girls, I'm richer and all of this, I'm richer than him and this and that. This was a motive. There was no reason for him to do any of that. You're trying to buy these children like a politician, as you want to be, would buy an election. So you used those tactics to try to win children over like you're a fucking Pied Piper. But this didn't really click into me until later on after he died and all the shit happened. But now it connects. But the problem is, now that a lot of people know a lot of the truth, a lot of people have witnessed the gang stalking that has happened to me, the rumors that have spread, the community, every time first of all, there are certain communities nowadays I step into, I'm immediately targeted. If I step into a restaurant, the whole room changes, every phrase changes, everybody looks at me funny. The adults, it doesn't matter who it is. And you realize very quickly the manpower that came into play with the situation, because all of these people don't even know you, and you've never met them or saw any of these faces. And you realize the manpower of the internet is very real. And this is why I keep telling people why the internet is so fucking dangerous. You know, there are people who are doing righteous things, and then there are demons on the other side who don't want to see them achieve that. In my case, the devil won because the children and the parents alike in that town, that community, and other communities let the devil win. They believed the devil. Now, if we wanted to get into racial terms, when you're in a white community, you're the one black person with all of these gifts out there. You can do all these multiple great things. You are the influence. And you got this one racist white person that sees that and sees all these little white kids hanging around you and asking questions. They're never going to tell you, hey, you're black. I don't like this. Stop that. There are subtle, silent ways they do it. But if you're smart, if you've been through a lot in your life that you can pick up on these things very quickly, you pick up on it very quickly. On top of the other things that he had going on as far as who he was trying to groom. You feel me? So it's gang stalking in a community happens when certain people with a certain level of credibility come together and deem you as something that you may not actually be. But because they're more credible to people who don't necessarily know who you are, these rumors or these lies are believed, and it becomes a tactic where they know that because things don't affect you or won't destroy your character a certain way, when they see that they can't get to you a certain way in life, when they can't try to find a way to commit to street theater and destroy your character, they have to destroy your character through other people. They have to tell lies, and a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, it's people who've never met you, but have heard about you. When you're popular, that happens. When your name, people who've never met you, but your name is all over the place. So people have heard about you. They've never met you. They've never seen you. They haven't even gone on your Instagram. Some of them have. Some have been curious, become fans. And this becomes a mixture of shit because you get a lot of people who will believe it. You got to leave a lot of people who won't move on it, won't say anything, won't back you up, but swear they support it. It's a lot of shit that comes with it. You lose a lot of people, like I did. You lose fans. You lose your work. You might lose your job. This isn't just a me thing, a music thing, an art thing, losing your fan thing. These are situations that, like I said, they aren't happening in the wrestling just in the wrestling world. They're happening worldwide. People are losing their jobs. People are losing relationships with girlfriends, or in a woman's case, a boyfriend, or whatever have you the case. Non-binary. I don't know, but um, these effective conspiracy tactics of rumors and lies, and basically, it all lies comes into a smear campaign sparked up by credible people who may not have been so credible all along anyway. Well, Jake is dead. And to a lot of people, that said a lot, but the rumors have still spread to a point that I can't even get I used to get at least 5 likes, 6 likes on Facebook. I can't even barely get that. And that's the honest truth, man. My content is amazing. There are a lot of people that are going through what I'm going through. There's whole communities where people are talking about community harassment, gang stalking, community conspiracy, smear campaigns, large community smear campaign. There's whole communities about it. People showing proof. It is there. It's just when someone's actually going through it in the regular world of 9 to 5 people who have never experienced it or heard anybody talk about it, never seen a YouTube video about it, never done any studies whatsoever, that even when you tell them to do their studies, they're automatically going to assume you're crazy or conspiracy because a lot of people just depend on watching too much TV. There's always that person on TV that's saying something similar to what you're saying. You are living in a society that psychologically understands you in that way, and thus, when someone psychologically can understand you in such a way that's so excelled, that's so what's the word I'm looking for here? So intuitive, not even intuitive, but they can also find ways to manipulate that within you for their personal benefit. And a lot of times, these are what we call narcissists or sociopaths. Sociopaths being, I think, some of the most dangerous. Uh, but this is something that's happening to a lot of people. This is a group effort thing that's large and only used to happen back in the day to celebrities. This is one of those Illuminati things. Well, there's so much bad energy happening between Hollywood and people that a lot of this bad energy from Hollywood and a lot of these bad tactics are spreading into our world as regular everyday people. And we're learning these tactics because we're exposing them in ways that people aren't ready for. So we never realize that sometimes we're exposing the tactics of situations to even more people who can damage you. Sometimes people are watching because they want to know how to destroy you. So when anybody who's doing videos like this, like including myself, when you're doing videos like this, make sure you're always prepared. Okay? Yeah, my shit went off like that. That's just me fucking around. But make sure that you're always prepared for what may come. I'm not seeing any comments from anybody or anything because I don't have the comment thing in front of me. But I do right now, actually, while I'm saying all of this, I want to explain something to you. There was once a Scientology church in LaGrange. For those of you who know what I'm getting at, who understand gang stalking, community campaigning, smear campaigning, there was once a Scientology church. Now, the Scientology churches are the most known for using these gang stalking conspiracy tactics on anybody who might be trying to expose anything, give up any type of truth. And so this is a thing that has actually been going on again with celebrities, especially celebrities who are whistleblowers, aka people who talk a little too much and expose a little too much. People, even like some of these celebrities who've been caught molesting children, they start speaking too much, they get silenced off in different ways. Everybody hates them. The community no longer supports them. There's a lot of tactics that are involved because they have so many powerful, credible people putting these directions out there, putting these ideas in people's heads. When Dave Chappelle, asked the company that was trying to screw him over, like, what do you think people are gonna say when they realize you tried to cheat me with a few lousy grand for doing this season of the show? Don't completely quote me, but it was something like that. And they said everybody's gonna think you're crazy by the time you get off the plane. And sure enough, he said that's what happened. So that's just one example you can look up yourself to see what the real story was. But to the effect, what happened was Dave Chappelle turned down a big deal because they wanted him to wear a dress or something. I believe it was to wear a dress or something. And he said, "I'm not doing that. I don't care how much money you pay me. What do you think somebody's gonna tell you if they say you try to make me dress up as a woman like you do all these other field Negroes, for this little money?" And they said, you're gonna say you're crazy by the time you get off that plane, and that's what happened. Because these are people who understand psychology enough to know how to manipulate it, and this is why you have to be careful with people. And with that being said, it is very possible that armies of people could be put against you for whatever their reason. Because a lot of people, it starts to stem from it's no longer stemmed from me being no predator or anything. So people know that now, or I wouldn't still be alive. I've had a lot of situations with that shit's over. Now it's just stemming from who I had to become to survive through that, dealing with people in life. And there's a lot of people out there who know what they did that changed my perspectives, that changed how I treat people. And these are the very same people who helped cause the effect of the things that I lost in my businesses and a lot of things that I built in that time of my life. And this is exactly why those type of people, they have to hold up that flag and they have to keep doing it, because they know if it goes flag down, just like I knew if I left Jake and I went and made that money, those rumors were going to happen. They know they're going to lose because it's a large group effort. And they can get police involved. It's very extreme. I know it sounds crazy. I'm just saying, I can show you, there are so many other people and there are so many other communities that talk about this stuff, that experience this stuff. And there's no such thing as a group effort hallucination. With all of the same details, this thing is extremely real. With that being said, I want to say Scientology churches are known for this thing, like I said. But I think that it spanned off from them onto other religions and other churches that believe that if you are not following what they follow, you are a threat not just to yourself or your family members or anyone around you in your social life, but to the world. We don't want you becoming something huge and spreading your truths, quote unquote, to people that we're trying to control in the world a certain way. You see what I'm saying? And with that being said, I really want to get to this because it's the most important part of it, and I stalled out because all of that really had to be said. And so here we go. Now, I'm not a religious person, and I won't point out any religion because, that's just really offensive. There are people who live by and swear by these things. There are people who might get offended because they see the word Jesuit. I'm going to let you know right now, I don't care about the Jesuit thing because this thing is happening to me, and I just know it to be people that are into Scientology. I have no idea if the Jesuits are into that. I don't care if it says Jesuits. If it would have said Scientology, me and several others who will be watching this in the future would be jumping up like, yep, we thought so. Jesuits, I don't know anything about. I can't say anything except that this is an actual book. So let's get into this because a lot of the stuff that I just said, this is going to tie into what I said so that you understand I am not crazy. Let's get into what this woman says. Her name is Seth Thomas, which is, I don't know why. There's a dude here. I don't know. There's a woman talking, so maybe this is somebody else's. I don't know, but maybe he just, took it and then put it on his channel. But anyways, let's get into it because I think it's going to really enlighten y'all a little more about the fact that this is not some thing that I'm just making up and I've been making up all along. And in fact, there's a lot of people that are probably going to be who, if they're smart, people who pay attention there's probably gonna be some regretful people who are probably gonna be like, damn, so the shit he was saying was actually real, or they're probably gonna say, damn, I better hush up and not say anything because I'm afraid. Uh, but whatever. Let's get into it.
I just wanted to bring this to your attention because this book right here was published in the year 1723, and it's called the Monita Sacrita, or the Secret Instructions of the Jesuits. And the Jesuits
Does
are
anybody
a
know what
religious
Monita
group that I
Secreta
think
means? Is
originated
it like
during the
Latin?
Holy Roman Empire, and they swear allegiance
I don't know. If anybody
to the
watches this at some
Pope.
point, let me know in the comments
And
if you
this book
figure it
right
out.
here was written by an
In fact, I'll just
ex-Jesuit
grok it
who
myself.
describes some of the exact methods of the organized stalking and harassment that we're experiencing now. So we're just going to look at chapters 10 and 11. If you want to read the whole thing, it's on openlibrary.org. I'll try to remember to leave the link below. But here it's saying it will be necessary to dismiss as an enemy of the society anybody who has alienated their devotees or friends of their churches, or persuaded any rich person or any
Wait,
person
hold
well
up.
disposed to do so. And then
Okay, where it says like, um, where you've alienated, like whoever he may be, or whatever condition or age, who has alienated their devotee should be punished. That's the part that confuses me because what I'm going through is a lot of what she's going to say that you're going to catch in a minute. But what what did I alienate myself from? Because again, when you're dealing with a world that gives you nothing but silence, you can't learn anything. If nobody tells you what you're doing wrong in society that's turning people the wrong way, you don't know how to evolve. You just go on guessing and guessing, and it's trial and error for the rest of your life. If you don't have friendships, this is what's going to happen. If you don't have good family support, or I wouldn't even say good family support, if you don't have family that understands the side of life that you're living outside of the traditional understandings of life that they know, you're in trouble. When you don't have friends in your era that are living in your lifetime who feel what you're going through or understand. So if people were doing what they're doing to me because they felt like I was alienating them, I didn't have a fucking clue because no one fucking told me. If I was acting a certain way that made me seem a certain way, nobody told me. They just
as also
left.
those who, at the time of disposing of their property, have shown greater affection for their relatives than toward the society. And that refers to something that they mentioned earlier in the book. And I don't have time to go into with you guys right here, but
Again, there was a Scientology church in LaGrange, bro, where all of this started. There was a Scientology church there. Okay? That is pretty much like a secret society. They got rid of it a few years back, but it was there when I first started coming there from around at least 2004 to 2010. I think maybe a little longer than that, but they got rid of it sometime around then or maybe a little before. So when they're talking about societies, I still believe personally that there are Scientologists that still have some kind of control within the powers of the LaGrange community outside of the church they eventually destroyed. And the reason why they destroyed that church is because nobody's stupid if you're studying this shit. That church got destroyed around a time when this stuff was getting exposed. Nobody knew until it started getting exposed that Tom Cruise was a part of this little secret society thing. Okay? So they tore the church down because it went against the values or morals and standards of everyday blue collar life. Not because they stopped believing in it, but instead, I guarantee you that church is being run secretly somewhere else, if they're smart, as a whole nother type of church. And I guarantee you that's a church somewhere in the area over there that you can't get into because it's only meant for the people who came from the other church that was destroyed. And if they trust somebody, they can let them in because that's how that shit works.
Yeah, I'm going to upload some more videos this weekend going through this. But earlier in the book, they talk about certain members that they try to manipulate into giving all of their property and wealth to the society. And here it's saying, okay, if, basically if they approach someone and try to manipulate them into giving their property and wealth to the society, and that person shows a greater affection for their relatives, meaning, let's say, for example, that person has a house and property that they want to leave to their child, and the society approaches them and wants them to leave their property and wealth to the society, and they respond saying, well, no, I'd rather leave it to my child. That what they're saying right here is that they will dismiss that person as an enemy if they'd rather leave their property to their children, for example.
Now look at that, bro. And this was written in what they say the 1700s. Listen, we live in the age of technology, right? This is essentially the same thing that they're doing to me and a lot of other people around the world, because I guess if like I said before, if people feel hold on,
but it says
if people feel abandoned, or like you abandoned maybe their social order or whatever, like you were saying, if you abandon the society. In this case, the society is Lagrange. I don't know what I abandoned, why they started doing the things they did. It had, because eventually it had more to do with than just Jake. It started to become something completely different. People just chose to hate me, okay, and that stemmed from something, an energy that is just more than it became. It's like the Diddy thing with Tupac. Like while they were beefing, people are right that beef could have been an opportunity for Diddy. While Biggie and Pac were beefing, that was a perfect opportunity for Diddy to hit Pac, and then to keep Pac or Biggie silent, Diddy would have Biggie hit, so that nothing eventually got revealed through him because he was just too big, and Diddy wanted to be the next person anyway. It could be. I'm sure there was a lot more, but it makes sense in that kind of way. But these people, whatever, and I'm sure it's unethical values. Whatever unethical values happening in that community that you don't agree with clearly gets reported by somebody out there on the street who's witnessing it. And so LaGrange is a very big community, or a small community. And like damn near everybody knows everybody. So when an outsider who may blend in, no matter how they blend in, when an outsider starts communicating with other people out there, and the people within that community start to notice the defects of that person's lack of morals, so to speak, they question it. You're not one of us. You're not like us. You're something different. And then they try to justify it basically by oh, you're just trying to be some holy moral person. No, you're not like that, because nobody's like that. See, when you're around those kind of communities where people are corrupt to a degree, whether large or small degree, everybody thinks that everybody's doing something that's okay. And this was what made LaGrange so strange to me. It showed me for the first time in my life in my late 30s, early or mid 30s, that when everybody is sick together, it seems normal. And this is why a lot of people call it Lestrange, because they call the town Lestrange, yes. Because people do not leave the comfort of that town. They stay there their whole entire life. It's like once you go there, it's like you're hypnotized. You don't want to go back. You love the community. It's very peaceful. There's some beauty there. There's a small amount of beauty. It's a small town. It kind of looks like one of those communities that you would, but overall, it's really just one big community. It's a strip mall town. It's one of those strip mall towns that people like to hang out at on a Saturday night, like the Riverwalk, you know. So you get a bunch of the other thing that you look at that a lot of people don't see this. And again, when you've been through a lot in life, you pick up on things other people don't pick up on. You learn the natures of humankind in a way that other people don't. That community has more women's clothing stores. LaGrange has more women's clothing stores, women's workout centers, and dairy product shops than any other community I have ever seen in my literally today 45 years on this planet. And there is a reason, if you have been in that community long enough, there's a definite and probably dark, sinister reason behind that when it comes to women and children, female specifically of LaGrange. Anybody who's raised a child, tried to raise a child, or tried to feed their body a certain way knows, as a female, knows dairy products build the body the best. And when you have so many women's workout pilot places and stuff in that same community, there where all the yogurt places are at, you get a lot of thick, overdeveloped young girls. This is a genetics development that whoever runs that community knows. They're old school person who grew up accustomed to these understandings that people these days forgot. And they're using them to manipulate. And if you come across as a threat to what they've built or are brainwashing people into, you become the crazy enemy. And if you don't react the way that they need you to when people are treating you wrong around that community, they're going to find other ways until they break you. That's what they try to do. Because they think you're weak.
But because that's basically not a just reason for dismissing somebody, it says, but that they may not afterwards complain of the cause of their dismissal, let them not be dismissed immediately. Instead, let them be harassed with chapters and public censors. Let them be restrained from recreation and conversation with strangers. Let them be deprived until they are driven to murmuring, and then let them be dismissed.
Did I not just say that? Listen. Look at that again, because like I just said, when you are a threat to the agenda of a group of people or anybody, it doesn't have to be a huge government thing. When you are a threat to an unethical agenda that many people are already influenced by, when you become a threat that can crack that, they're already planned ways of outing you from these communities, from the people. And again, like I said, they'll run around and they'll tell people, don't communicate with him. Don't watch his Facebooks. Don't try to listen to any of his explanations because it's all just excuses. These are simple tactics. They're very simple. They don't do intricate, high technology shit. They just have credibility in what they say to people, and they use this. So what they're saying is right. When they feel that you've gone against their societal order and where they're at, this becomes the staged events that become against you. They tell everybody in the community to act like you're crazy, to ignore you. They even tell people to give you funny looks, to make you feel uncomfortable anywhere you go. And they have actual meetings and they sit around, and we're going to get into all of that in another video, because I'm telling you, my birthday today, I made it a deep decision. We'll get into it.
Pernicious to others by bad example. So basically they're saying that they know that what they did to that person is unjust. So what they're going to do is they're not going to dismiss them right away, but instead harass them until they start murmuring, quote unquote, and then they're going to.
When they start murmuring, I guess in that time in the 1770s, that was another way for crashing out. That was another way of saying crashing out. When people do wrong to you, especially people in large groups who conspired against you, and you are the type of person who's very resilient and they know it, and you become a threat to whatever the goal was, why they tried to destroy you, whether it was jealousy or anything else, just plain didn't understand you, whatever the case may be, right? So they call it murmuring because they can't find a way for you to react to the things they may have done against you. So they go out and they create ways through other people. And they tell people you're a certain way and they say, "Hey, can you get us to do this to this person? Can you help us do this to that person?" or whatever the case may be. And they find a lot of people until it's fun to do to try to find new ways to break you every day, like it's some kind of comedy show. Every time you step out the house, they got a new event until they crack you. So that this way they can be able to say, "See, I told you that dude was crazy," because they didn't already told people you was crazy. They already tried to lie on you. They already told people don't pay attention to this and that. But now you're out here fighting even harder, like I did. Now you're out there fighting harder. So now they're afraid. Now they gotta like Jake did. They gotta go into the further background around people that have never even met you, so that that rumor stays and it sticks. So that even if you get to the people that were around him, you won't get to the people that are next in line to start spreading that rumor after that rumor leaves that community. It's a whole thing. But it started with one person. And the freaky part is it was a guy who was into politics, a guy who was into the system, doing this stuff in a way that the system would do. So who's not to say that he was a part of something larger against me if anybody out there knows who I am in my history of MySpace or Facebook when it was in its beginning stages? Who's to say he wasn't a part of this stuff all along? But he had his own little side motives and I just happened to bust it. There's a lot of shit, man, I'm telling you.
Say, "Oh, we dismiss them because of that, because they are pernicious to others." And that's something that if you're a targeted individual, that I know.
Wait, let's go back. Let's go back.
And that's something that if you're a targeted individual, that I know in my situation, I've been a targeted individual for 20 years, and that's exactly what they've been doing.
Yeah, they do this shit for years,
to me,
bro.
And that's actually described in Isaiah 10. It says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and
Wait,
that
did I go
write
backwards or
grievousness."
forwards?
That's exactly what they've been doing. If you're a targeted individual, then they're going to say, "Oh, we just
Yeah, okay,
right away,"
let's
but
go right
instead
here.
harass them until they start murmuring, quote unquote, and then they're going to say, "Oh, we dismiss them because of that, because they are pernicious to others."
Again, this is what they do. They do something wrong to you, and before you go out and tell anybody anything, they've already done got to 1 million people. And not only that, they don't want nobody to know that they did anything to you, but they sit in the background doing things against you because they publicly want you to act a certain way. So that when you start getting impatient and when you start getting frustrated at what these people are repeatedly doing over and over and over and over, then they can point the finger and say, "See, I told y'all he was crazy."
And that's something that if you're a targeted individual, that I know in my situation, I've been a targeted individual for 20 years, and that's exactly what they've been doing. To me, and that's actually described in Isaiah 10. It says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness, which they have prescribed." So in other words, they're calling attention to bad things that they themselves have caused. For example, they'll persecute someone and try to drive them or provoke them into doing something, and then if the person actually does something to, for example, defend themselves, then they'll point at that and say, "See, they're a bad person."
And see, again, this is how the tactic is so effective and it turns so many people against you. Because a human being can only tolerate so much nonsense. Listen, family, you cannot tell people all the time that they have to be cool, that they have to be calm and collective. I watched my entire life get ruined over being cool, calm, and collective when I should have been out there taking action to defend my right to not only live, but be an innocent person just working to get his talents out there. And instead, I listened to other people who just chose to tell me to sit back and be the bigger person. But there are times in this world that I am living proof of where being the bigger person is not okay. It is not okay to allow groups of people to call you a pedophile knowing that you're not, and spreading it to people you don't know, going into group chats, putting your family's address and house up. None of this is okay to pass because look what it did to me. There are times when you have to defend your life and your peace. By God's will, this is your honor that is at stake. So by God's will, there are times when you have to fight. There is a such thing as being one of God's fighting soldiers. And this is the part where they try to confuse people against you. They know that you're fighting for your innocence because they know they did something wrong. You feel me? And the second they see that they're waiting for you to find a way to defend that, to defend yourself from their lies. And when you can't get through to people the way that they're getting through and you start to become aggressive in your defense, they immediately grasp onto that and use it and literally go out to people and say, I told you. They use that self-defense as to be the very thing that they were already running around telling people before they even reached you. The oldest trick in the book because I'm a 90s kid, but a lot of y'all, when people come at you first like that, you believe it because they came to you first, when really that's the point behind that trick. They tried to get to you because they knew by the time the truth got to you, the truth would sound funny because of the lie already getting to you first.
That's exactly why Jesus said, if somebody does something bad to you, just love them in return. And the reason he said that was because he knew their tactics. He was giving us a heads up. He was saying, okay, they want you to do something so that they can try to prove that you're a bad person. So don't ever let them provoke you into doing something, even if it's in self-defense. Which is obviously extremely difficult, right?
Listen. This is half true. I'm going to tell you right now. It's not okay to be 45 years old today and you don't have kids or a wife or anything, which almost happened if somebody hadn't said this one thing about you. It's not okay to let your work slip out of your own hands that you worked so hard to build because this one person decided to say this one thing about you. It is most certainly not okay to be out here defending your right to live your life righteously and claim your innocence, prove your innocence, even while you're proving it, for people to try to come against you even further and then judge you even harder. Because the first thing that if I said I was a killer, if somebody said I was a killer right now, and I went out and told people, yeah, this person thinks I'm a killer, people wouldn't think much of it. They'd just be like, oh man, them people are just tripping. But if they say pedophile, and I go, hey, this person's saying I'm a pedophile, first thing they're gonna do is be like, well, what did you do? When it's certain words, because average human beings depend on their understanding being based on the common basic face value things, words, letters, symbols, numbers. But this dependence, this ultimate dependence, is not the proper ultimate dependence because now we lack the understanding of why we need common sense, which seems to be the most base, but actually the most valuable thing that's missing in today's society. Because these things in this day and age are things that 90s kids and just Zennials, or maybe even Gen X altogether, or maybe just the Zennials would pick up on this. Yeah, Gen X and Zennials would pick up on this thing instantly if it was happening in that time. In our youth time, this was not a thing. At least it wasn't for us.
Which is obviously extremely difficult, right? Okay, so, but it's for the greater good. So here in chapter 11, it goes even further. It says, since those who are dismissed are at least conscious of some secret.
I also want to say this too, man. We're not living in a day and age where you can just be defenseless, man. This is why I'm going to give an example why people respect Malcolm X now more than Martin Luther King. I was ahead of this. I told people on Twitter and all kinds of social media, MySpace years ago, and everybody thought I was being disrespectful to Martin Luther King. But like a lot of things, I was probably right about all these years that actually can be proven on my YouTube page here. Um, People respect Malcolm X over Martin Luther King, and the reason being is because there is a point in time when you have to stand and fight, like I said earlier. You can't just you might be dealing with an enemy that wants you to sit there so they can destroy you. If you don't sit there, you're going to find other people to destroy you. Either way, sometimes it's just you or them. And this is what happened to me and Jake. It was just you and me. It was good versus evil, pure. And the evil won, even though it's dead, it's still winning through the evils that arise in these kids based off of the energy and spirit that this evil left behind. You see what I'm saying? Like it's a spiritual form of common sense. You can't just look at everything from a science level. You can't just look at everything from a basic life face value standard. There is a spiritual sense that lies in everything, all things, humankind, all things life. Okay, and I don't want to get that deep. I'm just saying what happened to me and what's happening to other people out there right now. The situation that's rising, it's happening for more reasons than anybody who's just getting a hold of what this is will actually think, because a lot of these people don't realize they are special. And this is the part of it that a lot of people don't want to realize about targeted individuals, is that they're holding something special, because a lot of people want to be in the limelight. A lot of people want to be famous. A lot of people want to be popular. A lot of people want to be, you know what I'm saying? But the truth is, there are people who are in that spotlight who don't even want it. I'm one of those people who are in a certain type of spotlight I wasn't asking for. I was asking for a whole other type of spotlight. And because people were too jealous to see that I deserved it, they took it the opposite way, and it spread. Because energy is fragile, you see? But there's a time when you just have to say, fuck what everybody else is thinking. I got to defend my honor, my family, like I had to, and everything else. I'll deal with the consequences later. When I go to court, I'll tell the judge I can answer to God if I died today for every blow I gave or took. You see what I'm saying? Anybody I had to hit, anybody I had to lay down, on social media, anybody that had to get it from me, I go to God today and answer everything. Because as a human being, this is what I felt in my heart was right to do. You understand what I'm saying, family? You are a human being, and no one should be telling you you just have to tolerate all of this shit especially for as many years as I was going through all of this harassment in the background and being told to tolerate it. It started to make me suspicious of the people who were telling me to tolerate it, because a lot of them were my friends. And mind you, it's the same friends who have not even said happy birthday to me today. They haven't said happy birthday to me actually in the last 3 birthdays. They think that I might not have remembered that, but I don't forget. I just don't speak. Anyways, let's get back into it.
Let them be persuaded to promise in writing that they will never write or speak anything injurious to the society, and at the same time let the superiors preserve in writing their evil inclinations, failings, and vices which they themselves have at some time given according to the custom of the society. So it's talking about confessions here. It's saying that they are going to use their Catholic confessions against them. But it goes on to say it must be contrived that we may keep up an intimate correspondence with someone in the family in which the dismissed reside. And as soon as anything is discovered blamable or deserving of censure, let it be spread abroad amongst the common people by means of persons of inferior degree who are attached to us. So it's saying they're going to plant someone there that is close to that quote-unquote enemy, who in reality is really a good person because they're just trying to take care of their own children there. I mean, it tells you that's just very in a straightforward way that they are actually targeting good people. And it says right here that they are planting people to spy on them. And as soon as they do anything that
Planting people to spy on them. This is something I've been telling people for a long time. This was written in 1700 something, and it's actually in there. And this is generational because the technology is just advanced. See, the proof is in the pudding, y'all. I'm telling you, what you're seeing here is exactly what I've been going through. And you can see it's not just happening to me, it's happening to so many others. And you just might be one of those people that, I hate to say it, you're just kind of following the system and not saying anything. But at the same time, why do you not respect the people who are taking the sacrifice to teach you these things?
is deserving of censure, then they're gonna just spread the information to all the common people. But it says if they commit
The common
nothing
people,
worthy
the
of
regular
censure
people.
and conduct themselves in a praiseworthy manner, then let their virtues and actions which are deserving of commendation be depreciated by subtle insinuations and doubtful expressions until the esteem and confidence which is attached to them is diminished.
So this is what your own family, sometimes your own family, and even your friends, and I'm going through this right now. Again, you can go on my Facebook. I see so many people having posts that say "Happy Birthday." I don't get them. Not after the rumors, but it's my strong belief, anyways. On a side note, that people were waiting for something like that to happen so that they could just make me feel a certain way. I don't think a lot of people wanted me to be successful. I think people purposefully, especially when it comes to like maybe social media, because like I said, everything's on social media. Your job application, the way that you promote. If you're not promoting on social media, what are you doing? Unless you have flyers, which I also use. I get more results out of flyers than I do on social media anymore ever since the rumors. But when social media stops working for you and you've had a situation like what happened to me happen, and which caused this chain of events to suddenly happen in this freakishly non-coincidental manner, you have to think about these kind of things because you get to a point where the rumors and the lies are so implanted in people's minds that by the time you've proven yourself, by the time people understand that you're not that person, they have to find ways to cover up the fact that you are not that person. Henceforth, they have to tell people don't look at your social media, don't look at your posts, don't pay attention because, of course, if your eyes are blinded by some other human being, I mean, like, and first of all, why would you let another human being control you in that way? Because you're letting another human being rather than God control how you treat others in society, which would actually better help guide you through life if you followed your own path and took your own lessons into play and followed your own heart instead of someone else's. But this is how, and I'm saying that because that's how people get damaged who are innocent. All right. So when people have gone all out of their way and the damage has all been done, and they realize you're strong, you're not gonna break, you're gonna keep coming back, you're gonna keep fighting. This is when they study everything you do. So every good thing you do, they go out into the community, like this people say, they give you false impressions, expressions. When I go into LaGrange, I go into a restaurant, I haven't even bought a coffee yet. I get mean looks from half the people that come in. Why is a whole community of people all day coming in giving me dirty looks? Why is it that the people who are working there have said hi to everybody in the place as soon as they come in the door except me every time I come in? Why is it when I just said, hey man, like just say hey hi to me every once in a while? I see you do it for everybody else. They continue to do it even more. Why is it everything that I deserve in the community or in my life or everything that I'm doing for you being treated like the complete opposite, like I'm a criminal? Why are the good things I'm doing being treated like I'm criminalistic? Because this is how they treat it. They might be telling people like, "Oh, he's nice, but he's up to something. He has a motive." There's a lot of shit behind this because these are people who studied human psychology to a desperate level of manipulation.
I can tell you guys, this is exactly what this network in the present time is doing. I can tell you, in fact, I was just telling you last week that that's what's happening to me, that it's never a direct accusation. It's always just these insinuations and these implications.
See, and the reason why it's insinuations and implications is because they know if you go around and start talking about it, everybody's just going to say you're crazy. They've already set that up by already telling people you were crazy before they started committing to street theater and committing to actions that they knew would piss you off in the public area. They saw you going to a restaurant, they did or said something next to you that was in earshot of you, and you heard it and you reacted a certain way if you reacted, and things like this. Like they have to, yeah, they have to create. It's just insane what they're doing, and it's such a desperate move because you spend hours doing this to people. You are spending so much lifetime that you could be doing something successful yourself for yourself. Maybe even understanding if it happens to you, why it was wrong to do it to someone else who was growing to be successful. You might even experience the same thing and go, oh, now I get it. It wasn't about him being a bad person. He was just reaching a level that people didn't like. That's the old saying. People want to see you do good, but not better than them. When you're doing better than them, all of a sudden it gets serious with them. Now they got to try to do anything they can to stop you. It was cool when you was working 2 jobs at the grocery store and then Burger King the next day. But let you start your own business. You're going to see a very quick reaction from a lot of people, especially the people who swore they were immediately on your side, man. There's a lot of people from 2004 to now who swore they was on my side. None of them are here. I don't get a happy birthday or anything. All right? And this was a big part of why. And a lot of this, it started happening before 5 years ago. It just didn't get this bad until the rumors happened. And I think the rumors were the excuse for the perpetrators who performed these actions against me over so many years to go full drive with it in the last 5 years. So if anybody's asking, like, or if anybody's out there going, ha ha ha, you only get 1 like on social media, you're the one that's causing that. You know, I don't know any other way to put that. I hate to say it that way. That's your fault. You who be watching this, you who watches these posts, could be the one to make the difference in the life of someone else. Even if it's not someone that you know personally, it's not just me. You could be out there just making somebody happy sometimes. If you know that someone deserves that support and you're one of those people that's saying, oh, poor guy, but you're not the same person that's putting it there, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with your logic, and there's no other way to put that. I'm not hating on anyone. I'm seriously, I've been going through this for so very long that I've had to study it, and I've been going through it for so long that I've been studying it for so long, and I've been placed in such a forced solitude for so long that when you're in solitude, you've worked on yourself for long enough to recognize the external shit for what it is. All right? So when you see somebody out there talking shit about this or whatever I'm saying, those are people who have a lot of friends. And the reason why they have a lot of friends because they kiss a lot of ass. And as Tupac said, and a lot of people who are wise said, the realest people don't have a lot of friends. When you're real and you're speaking the truth and you ain't going to sugarcoat some shit just to make somebody comfortable, 2 things are going to happen. 1 or 2 things. They're either really going to like you or they're really going to hate you. There's no gray area. But when you're that person where your vocal power is so strong, your words are so sharp, that you just one day happen to just grab a mic, you become a bigger threat than just that in society, man. And that's my situation, but that's a lot of people's situations right now, like this lady on YouTube. She's probably been on YouTube doing this stuff for a long time and was wondering at this point in time why people were after her. And she did her studies like I did, followed the little rabbit hole, followed only the facts, followed only what she could be proven that matched with what she was going through, and she found the answer. But this isn't something that leaves you unscarred. She's a speaker, just like me. The one thing these people don't understand they have in common, the fact that you go on YouTube or whatever alone, even if you don't have rap talent, even if you're not multi-talented, and I do strongly feel like I'm an even bigger threat because I have multi-talents that could rise me up in the biggest possible way and have my voice get out there in a way that these people don't want. I do believe that's a bigger purpose behind all of this. It's been happening for years, and I got so many stories that I will share in the future. So many stories. And you can confront me all you want. Every story is going to be told over and over and over the same exact way. And one day y'all are gonna go, damn, he's been telling it that way for years. That shit was no game. Anyways, I just wanted to inform people today that there's a reason why people don't get to like, people don't hang out with other people. And sometimes, and a lot of times, especially for me too, at the same time, I choose that. I'm just, you get done with the world. Once you become conscious enough, you realize why you're better off by yourself. But there's a certain loneliness that comes with that. Um, there's a reason why you're not getting the like. There's a reason, there's a reason why they're not getting the birthday appreciations. There's a reason why the friends aren't calling them, and it's not something that they did wrong. So if you know anybody that's dealing with this, you really need to be by their side, because this is the kind of thing that if you're not strong enough, it can lead to depression, and it can lead to the S word. And a lot of these people who are committing these acts against strong people, that is the point of it, is to commit the is to, off yourself or whatever. So it's show the world that you're stronger than anything that they could ever imagine. Me personally, I went through 20 years of homelessness. I've had to survive in ways that those people would break down within minutes, you see? So they don't understand that my strength is unmatchable compared to their desperation. But I do these videos to show people that what I'm saying is for real. Uh, Corruption in homeless shelters is very real. Community harassment is very real. Corruption in the police force is very real. But we just lack the details and the proof, and so we need to start bringing that out. I mean, to me, right now, for a beginner in exposing a lot of this was proof enough for me. I actually like looked this up. This is an actual book. I looked it up everywhere. It's an actual book that you can find at your local library. And so people have been committing to these acts in many different ways over the generations as technology and people change. Okay. So this is a thing. You can easily be targeted if you are a good person. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I think these things are the reason why people choose to be bad. I think these are the reason why people choose Satan over God, because they cannot handle the pressure and the of being righteous. I think there's more going on here with all of this than, and I'm just choosing the day to do it because I waited a certain period of time to see if, like, and like I say, I got a couple of people that, my mother and somebody else, but like I waited a certain period of time to see if I was wrong. Maybe there are things that I was wrong about. I see that I wasn't wrong today. I see that I literally don't have too many friends at all outside of my business. And even that's a little sketchy with certain people. The people that I've been around for 20, 30 years, just hanging out. I didn't even get a happy birthday from them, and I done damn near just recently seen these people. I'm not mentioning any names because people want a reaction. People want a reason to say something negative about you. This is the whole purpose of why you don't get the birthday, like, or you don't get the appreciation, because they want you to react a certain way. They want you to off yourself. They want your confidence destroyed. They want you to have no money, no life, no joy. You can't even pray about it. And yeah, that's basically what being a targeted individual is all about when it comes to being the participator or the perpetrator. So I hope you guys enjoyed the educational status of this video. Again, this is also for just educational purposes. This isn't meant to like freak anybody out or make somebody feel a certain way. I got other videos coming up in the future for that. There is another side of me that steps outside of the education world. You're just seeing another side of me on YouTube, and that's all. You'll be very shocked, and I think you'll like a lot of things beyond this in the future. I know this was probably kind of grim to actually see. Wait a minute, hold on. But yeah, I'm gonna check this video out later because I'm not sure if y'all actually saw what was going on. Let me know anything in the comments, any input in the comments. I really, really do hope y'all actually saw this video because I I saw my little mirror there, and it didn't look like it kept me on. But I will catch you guys later. I will holler.